Hello again, you extraordinary subscribers. Welcome back, everybody, to the Hemingway Land YouTube channel. Oh, people, another amazing week here at the North American offices of Hemingway Land. Another one of these weeks that illustrates what I've been saying for years, which is that I am a magnet for idiots. So, a little bit of a story. We buy a lot of properties and we close on them with a title company, as you guys know. There are, however, a number of properties that we purchase outside of escrow. And we do what I like to call a notary close, which is to say that we agree on a price with the seller, we hire a notary in their local area, and we mail the notary a copy of the new deed plus the payment. The notary collects the signatures, notarizes the document, and then disperses the funds. Now, the payments used to be cashier's checks, but then when COVID happened, most people didn't want to go to a bank, they didn't want to go out in public, and so we started mailing cash. And to be clear, people, most of these properties, if we're paying round numbers, $1,000 for it. Realistically, it's $800 in back taxes, which we pay to the county, and then the seller gets $200. Point being, these are not million-dollar payments we're mailing. These are small, negligible sums. Well, anyway, for the first time in human history, one of the notaries we hired objected to the cash and requested to be paid by check because apparently he found it very fishy that we were mailing cash and said, quote, "I don't trust cash." And to be clear, when we used to mail cashier's checks, we'd have a lot of people who didn't trust cashier's checks and would object to that. And then we'd have to do this kabuki dance of, okay, what do you feel comfortable with? And every time, as you can imagine, the answer was cash. That said, I could at least, maybe, wrap my mind around that one. Not accepting a cashier's check. Not accepting cash thing, however, I find ludicrous. Well, anyway, it's at this point that the guy said he's not going to accept the money and he won't notarize the deed. So we then asked him to do the next, logical thing and return the money. And it was at this point, however, when he said he's not going to mail the money back because it's illegal to mail cash. Now, to be clear, once again, this was not $10 million in unmarked bills and small denominations and a crate marked Portuguese soaps. This was an amount of money no greater than what your grandmother would send you inside a Christmas card. Anyway, after some negotiation, he agreed to PayPal back the money. That was 3 weeks ago. Now, all the nonsense I've just told you guys, I was blissfully unaware of because my transaction coordinator does her job very well and does not like to make me aware of knucklehead stuff like this. Not only because it's her job to resolve these things and she's very responsible, and not only because I have better things to concern myself with, but because she knows what my reaction will be when I hear about this. Well, anyway, earlier this week, I became aware of what was going on, not because she told me, mind you, but because the sellers, the people whose signatures he was supposed to collect, called our main office number this week, got me on the phone, and said they've decided they're not going to sell the land. And why have they decided not to sell the land? Well, because the notary called them up and said, hey, I don't think you should trust this company because they're mailing cash. So as you can imagine, guys, the first half of the story, once I learned it, annoyed me greatly. It was at this point, however, when I graduated from apoplectic to homicidal rage. And so, with the fury of God's own thunder, I called the notary. Now, to my credit, I was not as rude as I could have been, but it's clear that I was a little, shall we say, on edge. Well, anyway, at a certain point in the call, the guy hangs up on me. He hangs up on me. So he has our money, he's not returning our money, and now he's actively dissuading people from selling land to us. And quick sidetrack here for a minute. What makes this story even more maddening is that the sellers are two sisters who live in different parts of the country. And the first sister signed her deed and got paid a month ago in cash and had no problems. But now the second sister is listening to the notary instead of her actual blood relative who's already been paid and who's vouching for us. Don't get me started. Anyway, so I call the notary back. He doesn't answer. I call back again, and again he doesn't answer. He's avoiding me. So it's at this point of the day when I've eaten dinner, I've got about an hour and a half before I work out, I have some free time on my hands, and I decide, like a maniac, I'm going to keep pressing redial until he picks up. Well, 45 minutes later, he still hasn't answered, and so I text him that if he doesn't answer and talk to me and return my money, I'm going to go to Home Depot tomorrow morning and hire a day laborer to keep calling his phone. So you either answer my call or change your business number. And it's at this point, whoa, miraculously, he calls me back, and oh, I'm so sorry, I was in a meeting, and he agrees soon after to PayPal the money, and I'm totally going to get this handled, and then he follows it by actually paying us back the money. So, look at that, people. A little victory, a very, very little, very minor victory for Hemingway here, guys, and really the highlight of my week, because few things make me happier than sugar, refined carbs, and winning arguments over morons. And by the way, guys, I think if there's anything we could take away from this story, it's that these guys outside Home Depot, they don't necessarily want to be out in the hot sun all day doing road work or painting a house. You can just as easily pay them to sit around your air-conditioned office and torment your enemies. It's a real win-win for everyone. Anyway, with all that said, guys, I realize that this does nothing to actually sell land or endear anyone to the business. I understand that. But you people, the internet, you've become now my therapist. You are the stand-in for my therapist. And this is just a great form of catharsis here for me at the end of a week as we wrap up the work week. With all that said, special thanks to all our valued customers. A lot of sales this past week, guys, particularly in the state of New Mexico. Starting off, guys, in Valencia County, sold some property to Stephen Juan, returning customer Yamilet with a delightful name, returning customer Jenny. And then Kim bought 2 properties from us, Rory bought 2 properties from us, and Rumaldo also bought 2 properties from us, all of those in Valencia County. Up in Colorado, specifically in Fremont County, sold some land to Chris and Susan. Get this one, guys. Chris and Susan, they placed the deposit. This is the $18,000 property. They placed the deposit, and within 24 hours, record time, they paid off the whole rest of the property via credit card. Much appreciated, Chris and Susan. Much appreciated. It keeps things well lubed here when the money comes in, day 1 of the sale and not day 90. I'm just saying. Anyway, and over in Humboldt County, Nevada, sold some land to Christian. Christian placed a deposit on one of our Grass Valley Ranchos properties. So we'll be closing with him through Amberly over at Equity Title in Henderson. Oh, she's awesome. Oh, my God. Amberly just turns these things around super fast. I'm actually using her name because that's how awesome she is. Anyway, unlike the notary, who will keep the name a secret. So as, anyway. All right, people, with all that said, going live on the website this week, we are back in the Silver State, the state of Nevada, in, more specifically, Ba-boom, Southern Nevada, or more specifically, Nye County, with 2 more residential lots out in the Vegas-adjacent town of Pahrump. And I will make the argument yet again, people, that this is a fantastic place to be investing in real estate, especially as everything in the Vegas metro area becomes less affordable by the minute, and as the 2 towns grow closer together slowly but surely. Starting off, we've got the largest residential lot we have ever had in this region, coming in at a whopping 1 acre in size. Of course, this is part of a different region than we normally buy in, specifically the Golden Spring Ranch subdivision, located over here on the far western end of the Pahrump Valley. A little bit closer to the California border, so a little bit easier to drive for lottery tickets when the jackpot gets up there. That's a reference only locals will understand. Whatever the case, despite being on the west side of town, it does have easy access, just 2 blocks away from Highway 372, which, of course, will zoom you right back into the heart of town for all your grocery and supply needs. Now, as we go to the subject property, you will see that like all the residential lots we list out here, this one has paved road access, power and underground utilities along the back end of the property, and, of course, access to city services such as water and sewer. Additionally, as you can see from the drone shots, this is a pretty developed little residential neighborhood with some respectable-looking home sites all around it, none of which are subject to any kind of homeowners association. Meaning, of course, that as long as everything is up to code and the city planning department signs off on it, the land is yours to do with as you please. And, of course, before we move on, I just want to emphasize, guys, finding this much land for a residential home site anywhere close to Vegas for this little is near impossible, making this, I firmly believe, either an ideal spot to develop with your dream home or perhaps even better as a buy and hold investment. Moving on, the second property we've got is a little bit closer to town, a little bit smaller, a little less developed, but still a great deal on residential land, particularly for those of you who don't have as much to spend on the property itself. So this one is located up here in the northern part of the valley, just west of the 160, and just on the cusp, people, of this developed region right here along Kitty Street. Of course, as it backs up to the developed home sites, that means that all those requisite residential power and underground utilities are on the back end of the lot, servicing the homes behind it. Additionally, despite the fact that the road out here along Kitty is still unpaved, still a kind of gravel consistency, and despite the fact there are no homes on this block, city water and sewer is offered in this region as well. And I point this out because I think a lot of times when you see a kind of line of demarcation like this, it signals to a potential buyer that there must be something wrong with this street. I don't believe there is. I just believe development happens in a kind of monkey see, monkey do pattern. So maybe if you're the first homeowner on the street, it'll require a little extra to build, maybe some more calls to the city to get someone out to pave the road. But realistically, once tax-paying landowners start showing up, more development is never far behind. And of course, the benefit of being the first on the block is that property values will only increase. Now, it should be noted, guys, that this property is being offered for both terms as well as cash in order to help any potential buyers afford both the land as well as initial development of the land. Finally, guys, before we go, just want to direct your attention back here to this property we listed about 2 months back. I'm dropping the price on this from $54,000 down to $42,000 because, as it turns out, when I was comping the property, I didn't realize that the lots 1 block away that were selling for $50,000 and $60,000 were actually 1-acre lots. I know, bit of a boner mistake, but turns out there's some anomaly in the plat where 1 block worth of 1-acre lots were shoehorned into a region consisting almost entirely of half-acre lots. So, it doesn't happen often, but occasionally I am wrong about something. Point being, guys, if you're one of the many people who reached out to us inquiring about, so why is this price so high? What is the deal with this? The answer is, because I made a mistake. So, if you are one of those who like the property but not the price, I'd encourage you to check it out again at its new and reduced price of a mere $42,000. With all that said, going live on the website next week, people, we are back in Colorado with some new properties in a picturesque region close to a small town and a lake. As that describes about 90% of Colorado, tune in next week to learn where exactly these new properties will be. Until such a time, thanks as always for watching, guys, and we will see you back here in next week's video.